as we are approaching the end of our season 5 finale of the show, COVID has been restricted, has been dying down with issues by the CDC. But first things first, in Nueces County, 127 new cases, 2 new deaths. Texas, almost at 14,000 new cases with 40 deaths. Hospitalizations, 4555. ICU, actually it's ICU, 4555. People hospitalized, 38,360. Vaccination, 75.1 and 62.3%. CNF. How about in our schools? Well, since this 12, 3, 2, 0, 3 high school students, 2 high school staff, ECC, the 10th, 1, 1, 0. The second day of school, 1, 2, 0, 2. I'm seeing a pattern here. I'm really seeing a pattern here. That's the pattern I've seen in all years. And we'll get to the school and COVID thing in just a minute. But let's hear what an expert has to say from CBS News.
A pandemic front. Today, the CDC updated its COVID guidance to loosen a number of its health recommendations. CBS News chief medical correspondent Dr. Jon LaPook is here now with the details. Good evening to you, doctor. So what is the biggest change?
Margaret, the CDC is trying to consolidate and simplify its guidance and remind us the pandemic is not over and a lot more people still need to get boosted. One important change has to do with shortening mask wearing after being infected with COVID. You still need to isolate for 5 days, but instead of then having to wear a mask around others for 5 more days, you can do a home test on day 6 and day 8. If they're negative and you have no symptoms, or if symptoms are improving and you have no fever without fever-reducing medication, then you can stop wearing a mask around others.
And there are also some changes, I understand, about how someone who's exposed to COVID should behave.
Right, Margaret, I just confirmed this with the CDC a few minutes ago, that if you are exposed to somebody with COVID, you no longer have to quarantine whether you are vaccinated or not. However, you do need to wear a mask for 10 days around others and get tested at day 5 after exposure or sooner if you have symptoms. And Margaret, this should lessen disruption in schools and elsewhere.
Dr. Jon LaPook, thank you for breaking it down for us.
All right. Now, what about in our school? What about in our schools? Ah, there we go.
Did you get us?
This.
Because here's an expert from Channel 3 to tell us about COVID in our schools.
moving along with that discussion, many parents are still wondering if their children need to wear a face mask while back in class. Dr. Salim Srani joins us live to discuss this very topic. Dr. Srani, let's do this. What are you paying attention to when it comes to statistics that the county is releasing, and as it relates to parents monitoring their children's behavior in the classroom, and what do you advise that they do?
Good morning, John. To be here. The key factor is anytime you take a decision, it has to be based on 4 or 5 factors. Number one, you need to see what is the community prevalence of the COVID-19 in your community, because your community may be very different from other community where the prevalence is low and it may be high. The second thing is your kids who are going to the school, they are vaccinated. Are majority of the kids in the school vaccinated? The third thing is you need to look at your own home structure, whether you have a elderly or immunocompromised person at home. And after that, you also have to take into a consideration if a family member is sick, what is the community responsibility? Should they go to the school? And if they have infection, how they can prevent it? And finally, it has to be taken care of by yourself. What do you perceive? Some of the folks will say that, hey, you know what? I don't want my kids to have a COVID-19. The thing is very different when initially it came in, but when Omicron came in, it was a milder but very, very contagious. So it's very tough to even avoid getting it. The vaccination does prevent it. And on the other hand, some parents may say, well, you know, if they get it just like any other viral infection, it can be mild, and so what a big deal. And when he gets it, we'll just keep the kids at home for a few days, usually 5 days. The main factor really depends on is that you still need to practice some of the physical distancing, hand washing, and if you're sick, you shouldn't be going to the school. And if you haven't got vaccinated, get vaccinated.
Wonderful. Well, Dr. Strani, we appreciate your insight. You will be joining us in the next half hour to discuss other back-to-school topics, such as physical.
That was really great, and thanks to him discussing those tips you need to realize. Up next, children bringing guns to school. We have not covered this in our greatest hits, but if you look at albums that say greatest hits, they add new songs. They add new songs to the greatest hits. So we'll continue our greatest hits when we return, and a bit later on, more updates when we come back. We're continuing our finale week here in season 5. So, what we have not covered in our back to school month was students being arrested for bringing a gun to school. This is happening everywhere you go. So imagine this. One day you're sitting with your friends at lunch, and your friend decides to they say, hey John, you want to see something I got for Christmas? What is it? And then he pulls out a bag and goes, I'll be right back. Mr. Wells, Mr. Jones, there's a gun. Follow me. That's him. He's got the gun. They give a little. We'll go on lockdown. My way. Lock down. Okay. Down. And then they search him. And then that's what happens. We're going to show you some clips, news clips, about students who have been arrested for bringing guns to school, and body cam footage. So let's start with those news clips.
Try building your credit with Cheddar Void.
A teenager caught with a loaded gun at Taylor High School is locked up in juvenile detention tonight. Police say he threatened to shoot up the school. 7 Action News reporter Nana Senjabonsu has new video of the troubling incident that has parents concerned about safety.
Tonight, we have body cam footage of that moment Taylor police found that loaded handgun a 15-year-old student was carrying while class was in session inside Taylor High School.
You think this is appropriate for school?
Are you serious? Are you serious? This is a mother's reaction after police show her what her son was carrying inside this black fanny pack, a purple handgun that detectives tell us was loaded. Moments before the discovery outside, police say the student made threats to a security officer in the hallway.
He made a gun fashioned out of his hand, pointed it at the security officer, and indicated that he would shoot him.
The 15-year-old student from Inkster was taken into the office before he walked outside of the building. Outside of the building, around 9 o'clock, is where he was stopped by Taylor police and questioned.
What do you got here? Look in there.
Tonight, parents are asking, how did the gun make it inside the school building?
They have metal detectors at the door, so how did they not detect this? And if you can't detect this weapon going in the beginning of the day, how am I supposed to know that you can secure my child the rest of the day?
Denise Lawson also wants to know why parents weren't informed immediately. She tells us she found out on Facebook.
And why they would not call us parents and give us the option to pick our children up.
Later that afternoon, she says Taylor School District Superintendent Griff Mills emailed parents this letter saying, at no time was anyone in danger.
They need to get it together. If they can't get it together, put them back in homeschooling.
Right now, police say they're working to find out how the student got his hands on that gun. They also say that gun had the serial numbers removed. They don't know if the student shaved it off or if someone else did it. I'm Nana St. Bonsu for 7 Action News.
All right, now.
And here's my theory how it happened. Maybe the gun was under the pillow in the parents' bedroom. Maybe he could have snuck into the parents' bedroom, got the gun, and then put it in his backpack. That's a theory that's being looked into. Well, maybe a theory, but this was almost a year ago. All right, 2 months ago, before the school year, 2 North Texas students were arrested for bringing guns to school. Now remember, this happened months after that whole massacre.
In North Texas, 2 students have been arrested for bringing guns to school just 1 day after the massacre in Uvalde. Kennedy Walker joins us now from Meacham Middle School in Fort Worth, and Kennedy police arrived at the school shortly after it was reported.
Hey, Karen, that's right. Police may have prevented a gun incident from taking place yesterday. Now, this morning, there was a heavy police presence here at Meacham Middle School right now. There's still about 1 officer left. Others have gone inside, and each of them greeted students as they walked into the building this morning.
1 day after the deadly shooting at Robb Elementary School, police say a student at Meacham Middle School was in possession of a firearm. The officer arrested the teen and seized his gun. One student recalls what happened.
We just got done with lunch. We were all going to class. Then some kids told me that a kid pulled out a gun, waved it around, loaded it, pulled it back and waved it around at the cameras.
Ariel Munoz is in 8th grade and says the student that brought the gun was in the 7th. School officials say no threats were made and no one was injured as a result of the incident, but Munoz says he was terrified.
It's honestly scary for me. It's nerve-wracking to find out that there's someone bringing guns in.
In Richardson, a similar incident took place at Burnker High School. Police arrested a teen after they found what appeared to be an AK-47 style pistol and a replica AR-15 style rifle in his car. The quick response times are thanks to the major increase in safety protocols across the metro following the Uvalde school shooting, ensuring students and staff that safety is their top priority.
Now, it's unclear if the students that brought those guns to school will be allowed to be back on the campus. School officials say that they have to complete an investigation first before they make their decisions. Now, school is almost out for the summer here in Fort Worth. The last day of school is Tuesday, and in Richardson and Dallas ISD, the last day of school is tomorrow. Reporting live in Fort Worth, Kennedy Walker, CBS 11 News.
And here's a theory that I may have a theory about this. They would have gotten in the parents' house, and the same thing happened with the other kid. They could have snuck into the parents' house. The same theory I have. Maybe a different theory could be hid it somewhere, cracked this. They would have just picked the safe or knew the numbers from the code. Maybe that's what it would have happened. Lock in the safe or found in the closet, or I don't know. I may have a lot of theories, but the theories may not prove to be right. Still ahead, a portion of the police body cam footage that could shed some light. And up next, more on students being arrested for bringing guns to school and threatening to shoot up a school. Well, I'm going to show you a clip from someone years ago to where a 15-year-old was arrested. Body cam footage shows of a kid written threat who threatened to shoot up a school. We'll have that for you next. Let's quickly bring up to date on Uvalde now. According to CNN, officials refused to answer key questions about response probes as anger grows. Now remember, this was 2 months after this horrible massacre. It was all because of Police Chief Pete Arredondo, who is now placed on unpaid administrative leave. But in an Interactive 22, it's the timeline. Some officers had rifles and body armor. No one touched the door to see what would open. That's what we know so far from an interactive timeline. So far, the 3 ranking public officials have been placed on leave or botched emergency response to the shooting. Lieutenant Mariano Parkas, Pete Arredondo, and former Robb Elementary principal Manny Gutierrez. The mayor told CNN Tuesday Parkas is not responding publicly to the claim, including requests to speak with CNN. But questions are still unanswered, and we'll keep you posted on what's been going on. Next, students being arrested for bringing guns to school and a police body cam footage. Wait till you see what happens. Don't go away. On March 2020, a Siena police arrest a high school student after the staff finds a loaded gun in his backpack. Now, here's the twist to this. I'm not going to play you the 26-minute. I'm only going to play you just a small to medium portion of what's been happening. So, here's a portion.
I haven't checked the rest of the backpack, but first pocket I checked, I could feel it.
Okay.
It's right there.
All right. What did he say? I mean, what?
He had left the bag in the room, and so when I said I'm going to need to go get your bag because.
This was from May 18th. This was from May 18th, 2018. This was released 2 years before COVID. So in that backpack, this student brought the gun, but it was marijuana. He was arrested for possession of firearms. He's now taken to jail. And now they're being questioned. And now he's being questioned.
It smells like marijuana.
That's what we know so far. And here's two short ones from 2 years ago and from 8 months ago.
A 15-year-old student was arrested for bringing a handgun to school in Greenville. That's in Pitt County. Police received information that the student was in possession of a gun on school property at J.H. Rose High School today. The student was found with that handgun. He was charged with having a weapon on school property and is currently in juvenile jail. Police are not aware of any threats made by that student. Additional officers were called to the school for precautionary measures.
Which was good. And here's another one.
A student in Southfield was arrested for bringing a weapon into the Southfield Regional Academic Campus. Police were able to confiscate the gun. No staff or students were hurt. We are working to find out why that student brought the gun to school in the first place. We'll keep you updated as we get new information there.
Again, my theory could be snuck it out of the house. The parents weren't there. This has been going on. And I'm about to show you, what I'm about to show you is a clip from almost years ago. There was a clip about a guy who played a video game. Yeah, he played a video game, and on the video game, he threatened to. This is the legislature in Florida for that after the Parkland shooting from years ago. So this is in August of 19. This was like years ago, so let's watch.
Insurance from change of night, like you left your job, got a husband or wife. If you turn 26, here's a folks plan too. Healthcare.gov is here for you. Check out the website for what you can do. Just remember, limited time to enroll. Healthcare.gov is here for you.
Order 920. Who's that? Go ahead and turn around. Put your hands on your back. He's under arrest currently for making a threat to cause a mass shooting / active terrorism.
Cause a mass shooting?
Yes. He made a statement, a threat, a written threat to plan or to carry out a mass shooting.
But he's just a little kid playing a video.
That was the son's version. So let's.
And Falcon Warrior 920. Who's that? Go ahead and turn around. Put your hands on your back.
So here is that.
I, Dalton Barnhart, vow to bring my father's M15 to school and kill 7 people. And Falcon Warrior 920. Who's that? Yeah. Go ahead and turn around. Put your hands on your back. He's under arrest currently for making a threat to cause a mass shooting / active terrorism.
Cause a mass shooting?
Yes. He made a statement, a threat, a written threat to plan or to carry out a mass shooting.
But he's just a little kid playing a video game.
And all
That's
these kids
so
keep
far.
getting arrested. And that's why the FBI and the local law enforcement is spending so much time, because how do we know he's not going to be the kid from Parkland? He's not going to be the next kid, the kid that shot up Sandy Hook. We don't know that. So when you draw the attention to you by making these statements as they may be jokes, I mean, I wouldn't expect the kid to go, yeah, I'm dead serious, I'm going to go shoot everybody up. No, when they're caught, it's a joke. I didn't mean it, it was a joke. That's when you're caught.
But these games, these kids say stuff like that all the time. It is a joke to them. It's
He's defending the victim.
Guess what
wrong.
my time in
Hate
law
that game.
enforcement is spent doing?
Man.
The rest
She's playing the victim here. He was the one that said, oh, I'm going to go bring my dad's gun to school and shoot up the place. That, in any of the 50 states, you could be charged for making a terroristic threat. And this was during Parkland.
these kids for making these statements all the time, and for stopping acts too, as well.
Okay.
So that's what our job is to make contact, because these kids think it is a game or a joke, so they go ahead and make these comments.
But it's just a comment, so how is there an
There's
arrest?
a Florida state statute that says you cannot make a written threat to cause a mass shooting, act, or kill or harm anybody else. Legislature has chosen to
Well, he
do
didn't
that.
cause or act or do anything, though.
He made the statement too.
It's a written statement. It's a written statement. It's a written threat to kill or to make a mass shooting or act of terror. So if I get on there and say, I pledge ISIS and I'm going to blow everybody up, that's the same charge as, you know what, man, I'm fed up. I'm going to go to school tomorrow and shoot up my school. So he'll be going to DJJ.
What's that?
The juvenile jail. He'll be placed in there for several days. And we're going to go from there. The charge is a felony. It might be a second or third degree. I have to double check, because a written threat to harm somebody is a third degree felony. Second degree is when you involve a mass shooting in a school or an act of
He's a
terrorism.
little boy. He
He's
didn't
a
do anything wrong. Yes, he's 15, but he's still a little boy, and he's not one of those crazy people out there doing stuff.
Okay, well, he did what he did.
Yeah, but he shouldn't be treated as though he is a terrorist or something because he made a silly statement on a stupid video game.
Well, in a world where schools and kids are going to school to learn, they're getting shot and killed because people...
I understand that, but at the same token, I mean...
Hold on. There's no but. You hear what she just said? She said, I understand, but. And in the words of Dr. Phil, when you say, yeah, I understand, but, that means forget everything I just said. So you may say, yeah, I understand it's, I understand this and that, but he's just a kid. There is no but.
You have to look at things case by case, too. I mean, he's not that person.
Do you own a gun?
I have a gun, yes.
Okay, so he has hands and feet. He can grab your gun and go do something.
He would never do anything like that anyway.
We don't know. We don't know if...
No, but I know. And I know.
Most parents have it. Ma'am, we're going to take him. He's going to go to our operations center, and we will go from there. But this is where we're at. This is the world we live in, where People think it's funny to say I'm going to go kill people at school.
Well, he's not people, he's a child.
Okay.
There's a difference. He's playing a video game and he's a boy.
And that's why he'll be charged as a juvenile.
Fortunately, these days and age, this is what happens. Kids get on these things and they say this, and parents say, it's not my son, and then it might not be your son, but
I know it's not my son.
Somebody's son does, and then this is the world we're in, where kids are getting shot at school while they're trying to learn. And
I understand that. I understand that. I understand that.
We can't take
I understand. I understand.
Guy's not going to do it, and then it happens, and then we say, well, we had the chance.
Yeah, but I'm telling you right now, this is not my son. My son and I are like this, and it's just us, husband, and it's not my son. He's a little boy still.
Is this a situation? I know you're emotional.
High intellect and smart mouth.
Well,
and you know what? The grown-ups on these games go them into these things, which is what happened.
You need a roof over your head, food, and water. He doesn't need the game. Just
That's right, he doesn't.
You should take those away because these adults that are influencing may have done that in the past. And guess what?
Exactly.
He is because he made
Exactly.
We can't put on what they've said in the past to give him justification why
the past is the past.
He made the charge. He's going to face the consequences. Right? Let's go. Thank you.
Ma'am, can I have your first? I need your last name.
When you choose the behavior, you choose the consequences. That's how it is. And look at all these. These video games right here where you shoot people. That's the answer. Grand Theft Auto, Watch Dogs, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Those are the games that cause aggression and cause you to go out and commit shootings. Walmart pulled back years ago. And I'm glad this team got a lesson back in 2019 after the Parkland school shooting, because as a Florida legislator, you cannot make a threat. And the mother who wanted to fed her child saying, "Oh, he's just a kid. He's 15. He's just a kid. He's 15." That officer was right. Commando parenting. Strip everything out of his room except a bed, a blanket, and a pillow. That's it. No posters, no television, no computers, no Xboxes, no video games, none of it. Those are all privileges. And if you want those things, child wants those things, they have to earn them a step at a time. A step at a time. When we come back, a teen who was accused of threatening to shoot up a school had charges dropped years ago. Wait till you hear what the students have to say. Imagine after the school shooting, and you days after the school shooting or weeks after, you decided to make a threat. Then you realize it was just a joke, so the charges dropped. Then as a community, you're outraged and angry. That's exactly what happened 4 years ago when a teen accused of trying to shoot up a school had charges dropped. So why is the community outraged? Here's Jim Axelrod.
At Vermont's Fairhaven Union High School, attendance has been down as much as 25% in the last 2 months. Fear will do that.
He threatened to kill a lot of people in our school.
Cameron Rodrigue and Eliza Bird are seniors.
The fact that he could get out is kind of like a kick in the gut to us.
He is Jack Sawyer.
The way that I see it is just like as quickly as I can pull the trigger is how many casualties.
A former student here who carefully detailed his plan to shoot up the school in this journal of an active shooter, listing who he wanted to kill, like the school resource officer Scott Alkenberg. I'm intending to just blow his head off before he can even draw his gun or think about what's happening.
I'm patient. Like, I can wait. Right. Might be like 10 years, but I can also wait.
I was just thinking about, like, look, there's lives at hand, and this needs to be dealt with.
The plot was foiled when Angela McDevitt, a 17-year-old acquaintance of Jack's, was texting with him on the day of the Parkland shooting. Angela thought a mutual friend of theirs might have been a student at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas.
So then I went to Jack and I was like, hey, this girl, who we both know, school just got shot up.
And what did he say to you?
That's fantastic. I 100% support it. What school was it?
Angela told the police officer at her school, who quickly called.
That's fantastic. I support every school shooting. Not being sarcastic. That was a sarcastic joke.
The Vermont State Police. Prosecutors charged Sawyer with attempted murder and aggravated assault, but they weren't expecting a 112-year-old law to get in the way.
Bail in the amount of $10,000.
In Vermont, planning isn't attempting. And last week, hard as it may be to believe, prosecutors were forced to drop the felony charges against Sawyer after the Supreme Court ruled there was no attempt since the act had not been committed. Bill Humphreys has been the chief of police in Fairhaven for 14 years.
When you look at telling the detectives you're just delaying by law enforcement interactions, I understand their ruling. I don't agree with it, but I mean, that's the kind of laws we have to live with right now.
If Jack can make the reduced bail, he must seek mental health treatment, but he will get out of jail.
But I can't take away the feeling of not feeling safe.
Leaving Principal Jason Rasco to deal with panicked students and parents and anxious faculty. No school in America lives without fear these days, but the threat at Fairhaven Union High seems a little bit scarier, a little more real.
We have a new normal now because of things that we didn't do. We're the victims, and that doesn't feel right. It isn't right.
Vermont has passed a new red flag law in the wake of all of this, meaning Jack Sawyer can no longer buy guns, and legislators say they will move to close other loopholes. But if this happened just a mile away, right over the Vermont-New York State border, different story. He would be facing felony charges.
Great reporting on what is a very disturbing story, Jim Axelrod. Thanks.
And it is disturbing. I mean, he had the journal. The journal was right there. That journal was evidence. He could have been sent to jail. He would have been sent to jail for life. He could have been expelled. But now he's back. The law needs to change. That's what the bottom line here is. The law needs to change. And if the law doesn't change, okay, if the law doesn't change, that's fine. That is totally fine. But I'm not having these out walking on the streets. And I'm glad he can't buy guns because of what's happened in the Vermont legislature. But a 112-year-old law? Give me a break. He needs to be prosecuted. He needs to learn his lesson. And when you choose the behavior, you choose the consequences. That's the whole key here. That is really the whole key here. That's Give Me a Break for this Friday going to Saturday. We'll see you for Give Me a Break for the season finale of Give Me a Break Saturday night. And for all of us here at Give Me a Break and YouTube, good night, everyone.